Have you ever heard someone say, "My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with the facts"? When it comes to evolution, that seems to be the attitude for many, including some of the greatest minds in the world.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now hang on there, Mr. Presenter. Sure, creationists dislike receiving factual information, particularly on evolution and nuclear physics, but they really do not have any of the most brilliant minds going for them. I mean, creationism is a niche solely existent for the incredibly ignorant or the completely dishonest.
Since Darwin, every knowing person agrees. Man descended from the apes. Today, there's no such thing as the theory of evolution. It is the fact of evolution. I heard Carl Sagan say that on TV. I heard Isaac Asimov say that. This is Ernst Mayr from Harvard saying that. Evolution is not a theory, it's a fact. By the way, you know what this is called? A statement like this? It's called baloney.
Hello, Mr. Martin. Glad to see that you've risen in status from sit-down clown to stand-up comedian. Of course, I found another one of Mr. Martin's mockumentaries, or rather, a whole collection of them, being the video version of his book, The Evolution of a Creationist. Now, I've jumped directly into the second session, which, as you saw from the beginning of the video, is Fact or Fraud? Is Evolution Evolving? I must say that I was becoming rather tired with the repetitious approach Mr. Martin was using in his mockumentary, Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution. However, this one appears to be different, a little bit more varied in that sense, rather similar to the God of Wonders series I did. Thus I hope it shall be a blast, and with that I insist that we charge in, books flying, facts blazing.
Albert Einstein once said, "If the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts." Is that what keeps happening with the theory of evolution?
Ironic, because there's not a single credible source for this quote linking it successfully to Einstein. In fact, the earliest written example of this, or something very similar to this that I could find thanks to a friend, came from Product Engineering, Volume 29, Issues 9 through 12. On page 9 it states the following: "There is an age-old adage, if the facts don't fit the theory, change the theory. But too often, it's easier to keep the theory and change the facts." Now, only the first part was in quotes, i.e., if the facts don't match the theory, then change the theory. Then he goes on to add the rest himself. Therefore, it does not seem like it is coming from Einstein. It was written, at the end of Einstein's time, so it could have been from him, just an unknown source that we no longer hold. But the argument for that is very weak. However, the facts remain that even if Einstein did say such a thing, we lack the original source with the original context. Einstein could have said it honestly, sarcastically, or merely in a provocative sense, i.e., the Socratic sense, to prick the mind of the reader. But because we do not have that, using it to dig at a man who cannot reply or defend his case is very cheap. It's very dirty.
So atheistic evolutionists then assert there's no creator, designer, God, therefore purposeless, non-directed, accidental, mindless, random, chance processes produce the universe and everything animate and inanimate in it. You are the result of, if you don't believe in God, mindless processes.
No, not necessarily. I mean, a naturalist takes the position that we are the result of natural processes. However, not all atheists are naturalists, and not all naturalists are atheists. Some theistic naturalists compartmentalize their beliefs in a deity and hold them separate, whilst some atheists believe in a spiritual or supernatural realm, yet lack a belief in a deity.
The question that immediately comes to mind is, haven't scientists documented the progression of evolution over millions of years?
Evolutionists can't give one example in nature of a random chance mutation, that's a change in a gene, that increases or produces new genetic information in the genome. Not one. Zero.
How about the Lenski experiment on E. coli, which compared the genomes every 500 generations, or roughly 75 days, across a total of 50,000 generations, now 60,000 generations following April 2014. Now, what they found was that certain populations of E. coli evolved the ability to live on citrate, a place that wild E. coli cannot normally survive. This was found to have evolved in between generations 31 and 31,500, i.e. 31.5. Now, contrary to popular creationist claims, the gene or genes required for said trait did not exist in any of the E. coli prior the 20,000th generation. Thus, it is, in fact, an entirely new set of information, new DNA that evolved following the big 20K as potentiating mutations, i.e. ones which have no immediate effect, and then in 11,000 more generations did come into effect.
Well, then where's the evolution?
So what's the truth about creation and evolution? Is one fact and the other a fraud? Is creation truly divine and evolution simply a deception? If you've been struggling with these same questions, then you'll want to watch this video by Dr. Joe Martin. Fact or fraud? Is evolution evolving? This is the second session of Dr. Martin's 4-part video series titled The Evolution of a Creationist. In session 1, Dr. Martin answers the question, does it really matter if man evolved or was created? In session 3, Dr. Martin brings solid answers to the scientific debate about cause or coincidence. In the final session, Dr. Martin provides clear evidence about the age of our planet in How Young is Earth? For years, Dr. Martin wrestled with the same questions. As a scientist, he was sure he knew the answers. But then his faith, as a Christian, completely changed his life. Dr. Martin is a true scientist to the core, majoring in biology at Bucknell University and earning his doctorate of medical dentistry from the University of Pittsburgh Dental School. Recognized for his exceptional abilities, Dr. Martin was assigned to the 89th Military Airlift Wing. He was a dentist for President Johnson's Presidential Air Fleet. With years of scientific theory and practice, Dr. Martin became a professor at Baylor College of Dentistry in Dallas, Texas. It was here that this scientist had to face the realities of evolutionary belief. In 1986, Dr. Martin graduated from Dallas Theological Seminary and founded Biblical Discipleship Ministries.
So everything you have just stated can be summed up as the following. Screw science, I'm a dentist. Yes, dentists need to understand the details of the anatomy of the jaw. That is kind of in the job description. But that does not make them research specialists. It makes them dentists. There is one major fact you have to acknowledge. Mr. Martin has never released a peer-reviewed academic journal on creationism, the format key to scientific progress. I'm not saying that he can't therefore hold an opinion on the matter, but put bluntly, he's about as much of a scientist as I am. Thus, I don't find this hype over drilling people's mouths all that impressive.
As an author and speaker, Dr. Martin is in great demand, lecturing and debating on college campuses and churches across the U.S. and around the world. Let's join Dr. Martin as he explores the question, fact or fraud, is evolution evolving?
Our theme verse, as we talk about these things, is Proverbs 14:12. There's a way which seemeth right unto a man. And I'm saying the way of evolution is a way that seems right to so many people. But it ends in death. And that was me for the first part of my life, many, many years. And I didn't even think about that, but that was me.
Everything ends in death, whether you trust in science or whether you are a creationist. The former just has a grip on reality, whilst the latter attempts to escape it.
So that's Proverbs 14:12. Mike Riddle answers in Genesis, says a big part of the evolution worldview, their presupposition, is materialism. The importance of information to the creation-evolution debate is founded in the presuppositions of each model. The presupposition of the evolutionary model is materialism, which is the idea that everything in the universe is solely comprised of matter, mass, and energy. From this foundational assumption, evolutionists conclude that cosmic evolution, chemical evolution, and biological evolution are all true. This reasoning and logic is sound if the presupposition is true. Because of this, many evolutionists refer to evolution as a fact. But what if the assumption of materialism is false? What if the universe consists of more than mass and energy? If the universe consists of more than the two fundamental entities of mass and energy, then the presupposition of materialism is false.
And that means Jackal as no, evolution is not based upon the presupposition of materialism. Even if there were more to the universe than the material, it wouldn't then negate the facts that have formed the theory of evolution. Theory in science being a composition of facts that seeks to explain natural phenomenon by testable means as opposed to the colloquial sense of theory, which isn't even on par with hypothesis, which is the starting point for science. Evolution itself has been tested, not presupposed. Whether or not there is an undiscovered element to the universe would not mystically falsify this. This new element would have to be somehow in direct violation of the theory itself. Currently, evolutionary theory is the only one justifiable position on the origin of the diversity of life. Feel free at any time to falsify said current evidence and enact a shift in paradigm as opposed to merely arguing from ignorance on the possibility of evidence that falsified evolution. Darwin managed to shift the paradigm at the time of his theory. He didn't merely presuppose evolution on the origin of species and everyone accepted it. He made his case to such institutions as the British Association for the Advancement of Science, to which he was attacked from all fronts, including Fitzroy, who had been the captain of Darwin's voyage on the Beagle. But slowly the scientific community found that they could not deny the overwhelming evidence for Darwin's theory. You need to step up to the mark and take the challenge.
The presupposition of the biblical model, creation, is that there is a God who created the universe, the earth, and all the organisms living on earth. Additionally, this model establishes that there is a non-material third fundamental entity called information. That requires intelligence for its initial creation. This means the universe consists of more than just mass and energy, and that the information found within the DNA-RNA system of all life originated from the Creator God. Now, if there is such a thing as information, that means the whole evolutionary thing is false, because they assume just mass and energy got everything here.
And this is a clear example of equivocation fallacy. You see, information is a term used in a number of different ways for a number of different things. One such way is to describe answers to ontological questions, i.e. factual information, the makeup of reality. Factual information is the innate description of an object, e.g. the variables of a cube, or in this case, the base sequence of DNA. This does not require a creator, period. Then we have communicative information, i.e. we take these variables, this factual information, and then we, as conscious beings experiencing the universe, translate and transcribe this factual information into symbols, whether it be in numbers or letters. Whilst the cube already exists as it does, we give the cube metric measurements in centimeters, just like we give DNA lettered sequences, i.e. that of G, C, A, and T. Factual information exists without conscious minds. It's a communicative information that requires thought and design. Therefore, your attempts to present the concepts as one and the same just failed. Reminder of the facts that you failed to define your term either. Therefore, this is a rather dishonest trait on your behalf.
We're losing our kids. Now, how do we lose them? I have some examples. One example from several from a secular university, a Christian university, and some frauds in the textbooks. So the first example is the front page of a paper that a student did at a major university here in the United States. He was right at the top of his class, majoring in microbiology. This is the end of his first semester, senior year, when he hands it in. He has one more semester and he graduates. He writes a paper comparing and contrasting the regulation of the lactose and galactose operons and regulons in Streptococcus thermophilus, Streptococcus mutans, and Lactococcus lactis. On the front page, he said a bad word. This genetic group control mechanism is a wonderfully designed informational system for efficiently using substrates only when available or desirable. He used the word design in a science class. You can't do that. There's no such thing as design. It's all just random chance processes. And his professor went berserk. And his professor wrote all over the page. I suggest you grow up or think very hard about your major. It's ludicrous for you to major in biology. Creationism is not science. It is not testable. It cannot predict future behavior. This paper is poorly focused, immature, and pedantic. Much irrelevant information, blatantly apologetic, inappropriate for a science course. Poor science. Science is not anti-religion, but your religion is clearly anti-science. Pick another field where your personal opinions are all that matters. I suppose my reaction will feed your martyr complex, but so be it. I, too, am a devout Christian. I believe the Bible is the inspired Word of God. I believe I'm saved through the redeeming power of Christ Jesus. However, my faith is not simplistic, literalistic, inconsistent, and uninformed, and prejudiced as yours appears to be. Again, think hard about your major and your course selections for the fall. Well, is that a Christian professor with trying to disciple his Christian brother? No, this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's a professor with an agenda. They want our children. They want to steal the Christian worldview out from under our children. What's the average college student do? They pull out their white flag, okay? They pull out their white flag and they say, okay, professor, tell me what to believe. I was wrong, professor, tell me what to believe. And we're losing up to 88%, according to the statistics.
Again, no sources given, so I decided to search for the title of the paper, and I couldn't find anything. So I decided to search for the exact quote given, both by Mr. Martin and shown on screen, and surprise, surprise, nothing. Why is this important? Well, if you go back to that cropped image, you may notice something above the comment, i.e. the 75% mark. This was the overall summary of the paper, not a tirade at a singular usage of the word design. Don't get me wrong, 75% is a good mark. But if there is such a factual inaccuracy as the unsupported assertion of intelligent design, then that will be challenged. That is how science operates. Notice that the professor challenged the student on that one aspect and still marked him particularly high for the rest of his paper. He is not telling the student what to think. That's what you're trying to do. He is actually telling the student to start thinking critically about what he is being told. Thus far, throughout all of human history, there has never been one valid piece of evidence in support of creationism of any kind which has stood up to scrutiny. Thus, merely asserting design based upon opinion, as the lecturer noted, is not valid in an academic field founded upon empirical evidentialism. Attempting to throw the lecturer under as not really Christian, aka a no true Scotsman, doesn't help your case either. Now, whilst I could not find the paper, I shall put down there both the title and the quote in case someone else wishes to do some further digging around.
So, is there design out there? Well, here's what Stephen Gould from Harvard says. The absence of fossil evidence for intermediary stages between major transitions in organic design. Whoop! There's an evolutionist that uses the word design. You know what this is saying? The absence of fossil evidence. That means there's nothing in the fossils for the intermediary stages between major transitions, for something between a reptile and a bird. He says we can't even imagine what that would be. How would you even construct a functional intermediate between a reptile and a bird? We don't even know. He says this is a problem for the gradualistic accounts of evolution. So that's why he became a punctuated equilibriumist. He decided Darwinian evolution, there's no evidence. It happens too slow to see, we don't find it anywhere, we'll go to too fast to see. And that's punctuated equilibrium.
First of all, punctuated equilibrium is a phenomenon that doesn't contradict evolution. It is the acknowledgement that certain events and changes in the environment disrupts the prior ecological balance, throwing forward new niches and closing down others which results in the sudden increase in the rates of evolution, aka survival of the most adaptable over the most adapted. Secondly, this quote is called presenting the argument of people such as St. George Mivrat, who he then goes on as far as to quote, before going on to debunk said argument. This is why I like sticking to videos. I can play a clip of a person stating something and then debunk it without having to ever state it myself, which then prevents me from being quote mined and falsely presented as agreeing with my opponent. This is a common tactic amongst many apologists, not just creationists either. Some of you may remember just how keen Peter S. Williams, fan and fellow theologian to William Lane Craig, went on to do the exact same thing. This fallacy of false alliances, if I may be so bold to call it that, seems to be a theist's #1 method of attack, and that's just not on.